rights of victims and prevention of secondary harm, thereby increasing the effectiveness of the education. The Busan Teachers Union said today there have been several recent incidents of students committing sexual violence against teachers. According to the union, a teacher at Busan's middle school received a report in April that a photo combining their face with a body in an undressed state using an app was circulated in a chat room. Although the teacher requested an investigation, the perpetrator was not identified, and the Regional Teachers' Rights Protection Committee only declared a violation of teachers' rights without identifying a perpetrator. Shortly after, another teacher at the same school was physically sexually assaulted by a student during class. Last year, a similar incident occurred at this school, leading to the forced transfer of the offending student. In May, a 6th grade male student was caught hiding in a woman's bathroom used by a teacher after school hours. The teacher, upon learning the student's intent driven by sexual desire, was diagnosed with depression and anxiety disorders and developed cystitis due to avoiding restroom use. This case is scheduled to be referred to the Regional Teachers' Rights Protection Committee on July the 8th. In international news, Bolivian police arrested Juan Jose Zuniga, the leader of an attempted coup, hours after soldiers stormed the presidential palace in La Paz. Armored vehicles and troops had briefly positioned themselves around key government buildings on Morelos Square but later withdrew. Zuniga claimed he aimed to restructure democracy while initially respecting President Luis Arce. President Arce condemned the coup attempt, urging the public to mobilize in defense of democracy, and announced new military commanders dismissing Zuniga for his criticism of former leader Evo Morales. And now taking a quick look at the weather here. It's currently 24 degrees Celsius under cloudy skies. Air quality is in the moderate levels. Light rain is forecast from tonight until tomorrow morning and a chance of downpours tomorrow afternoon. And that'll have to do it for this hour's news. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Your best choice. BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Coming up next is 2 p.m. Reboot with Casey McKeever. BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Some people love to splurge all their hard-earned money when they travel. After all, you only live once, right? So how many chances will you really have in life to live large in Paris or London or Busan? Other people make a point to travel on as little money as possible. Why go into debt just to see some new sights or to see a little culture? However, like most things in life, there's probably some reasonable compromise somewhere in the middle, right? And today, on the show, we're going to talk about what different groups of travelers like to spend their money on, and also how to save a little money if you don't want to break the bank the next time you go on vacation. It's Thursday, June 27th. This is the 2 p.m. Reboot with Casey McKeever. Let's get the show started. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot on this Thursday, June 27th. You just heard Until the Day I Die by Story of the Year. And perhaps if you were a teenager in the early 2000s, you might have known the lyrics to that song. That was their breakout 2003 single, Until the Day I Die. The song is definitely raw, definitely emotional. Thus, is it emo? I was actually asking Na PD, yes, is this considered emo? Because I know emo was like a big thing in the early 2000s. Yeah, like part pop punk, very emotional vocal performance there. You can hear that. What's he so emotional about? Well, it's a relationship that went awry, right? So there's a lot of challenges in many relationships. You can hear that in the lyrics as well. They convey a deep sense of commitment, at the same time sacrifice. The narrator pledges to spill my heart for you until the end of their days. And that phrase suggests that there's an unwavering dedication despite some obvious difficulty in the relationship and some adversity and emotional turmoil. And the repetition of that line throughout the song underscores the intensity and the permanence of that commitment. Ooh, stay committed. There you go. That was Story of the Year with Until the Day I Die. You're listening to the 2 p.m. Reboot right now. Here from Busan, we're at the studio in BEFM 90.5 here. And if you're in Gijang, Jeongwan, and Noksan areas, you're listening to us on 103.3 FM. In Seoul, we're on TBS EFM 101.3 FM. And in Gwangju, we're on GFN 98.7 FM. Thank you for joining us wherever you might be right now. We're also on the YouTube. If you want to come check us out, you can just search BEFM or Busan영어방송 there. I should let you know, however, due to a music copyright issue, we can't stream the songs as we play the show live on the streaming, so the music will be muted on YouTube. However, of course, you can listen to all the music if you're on FM radio with us, or if you download our smartphone app, you can just search BEFM or Busan영어방송 on your little smartphone app store there, and you can listen to us in our entirety. So we do apologize for the inconvenience, but we do hope to get that sorted as soon as possible. We've got a lot coming up for you on the show today. In hour number 1, we're going to have Hot Off the Press, and this is 2 new songs that have recently been released, and we'll tell you about the artist, we'll tell you about the track, and we try to pick some of the best new songs that have been released so that you can enjoy them, and we think you might be hearing them a lot coming up as well. And also today in hour number 1, we do this every Thursday. We have Parenting 101 with Cheryl. She's going to come in and talk about some childcare tips, how to be a better parent, and I really need that. So thank you, Cheryl, for every Thursday. It's like my therapy session. And I think I can use a lot of her advice for many relationships, not just about children always. In hour number 2 today, we've got our daily list. Perhaps you can guess what I'm going to talk about today. At the beginning of the show, I was talking about traveling. Some people love to spend a whole lot of money when they travel. That would perhaps not be me. There are other people on the other side like myself who try to save a lot of money despite traveling. And sometimes that's not easy to do. So today on the daily list, we've got traveling on a budget, 10 tips to save cash. And pretty easy things I think you can do. Some things maybe you haven't considered before. After that, we'll have Inside Korea. And this is where we talk about stories and news that are going on in Korea, the place that we live, just to understand a little bit more about what's going on here. One thing we're going to talk about today in the news is what tourists from what countries spend money on while they're here in Korea. And I was fascinated to read this, especially what other Americans are up to while they're here. So yes, we'll talk about that today on Inside Korea. And then last, we'll have our perfect playlist today. Our theme this week has been sunrise. So we'll have 2 more songs about sunrise for you to enjoy on the perfect playlist. First, my question of the day, something I want to get your opinion on. What do you spend most of your money on when you travel? 여행할 때 어디에 많은 돈을 쓰시네요? So, for example, I was thinking for myself, it seems to be food. I think I spend most of my money on food or accommodations. Maybe whether it's a hotel or perhaps a bed and breakfast, one of those things that you can find online. I seem to spend a lot of the money on accommodation. So I'm going to guess it's somewhere between those two. I can't even say for sure which one is more. But in a perfect world, I think I would rather spend more money on food. I just enjoy trying foods from wherever I'm at, local as possible, unique as possible. So I feel like no shame about spending money on food, even though I try not to spend a ton of money while I'm traveling. That's tricky. That's right. That's hard to pull off, right? You know, it's tricky to do. Another thing I thought was possibly a contender is transportation. Because once you're in a new city or a new location, you have to get around somehow, right? Whether it's a train or a bus or, you know, do they have public transportation? Or do they have a rental car that you have to get? You can spend a lot of money on transportation. So that's what I'm curious about. What do you spend most of your money on when you travel? 여행할 때 어디에 많은 돈을 쓰시나요? So you can send us your answers at 샵9050 or pound 9050 for 101. You can reach us for free on Kakao Talk if you just search BEFM or Busan 영어방송 there. Add us and you can send us messages. Very simple. Or you can, as I mentioned before, you can download the smartphone app in your app store. Just search BEFM or Busan 영어방송. Download the app, log in. You can leave us some comments, and you can put us right in your pocket and take the show with you. Go for a nice walk before it rains today. It's looking a little iffy outside. It's supposed to rain a little bit later. Go enjoy the weather before it rains. So think about what you like to spend your money on when you travel. Let me know. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick song break. We're going to listen to Take It or Leave It by Sublime with Rome. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot with Casey McKeever. You just heard Take It or Leave It by Sublime with Rome, and now it is time for Hot Off the Press. We do this every Monday through Friday. We bring you two of the newest, hottest tracks from the world of music. There are so many songs released every week, and we do our best to bring you some that we think are great, give you a little background info, and we think you're probably going to hear these songs a lot more too coming up. So our first song today is Pretty When You Lie by Ryan Mack. If you're not familiar, Ryan Mack is an Irish singer and songwriter, and he spent the lockdown, back in those days, writing and infectiously hooky pop songs on a daily basis. Can you imagine keeping up with that? So he gradually let them out online and then paired great music with his undeniably irresistible online presence. That must take some effort. And Mack has built a global fan base that's always waiting to see what he has coming next. He's co-written with fellow Irish artist and friend Robert Grace on the song Fake Fine, and that topped the domestic music charts, and his own viral hit Broke surged to over 1 million streams in under 2 months. And that got worldwide radio airplay and endorsements from artists including Charlie Puth. Our second song for today is Rebel at Heart by Ashton Irwin. And Ashton Irwin comes from Sydney, Australia, and is globally recognized as the drummer in the pop rock quartet 5 Seconds of Summer. And that's a name I'm definitely familiar with. Ashton Irwin has a new album called Blood on the Drums. Not as painful as it sounds. It's a very forward-thinking collection of songs that takes in the infectious 80s tinge drum sound. You'll know it when you hear it. Also some rock bangers, some dubby art pop, and a whole lot more. Blood on the Drums is the follow-up to his 2020 solo debut, Super Bloom. And this was also made during the pandemic, and it was a musical art steeped in personal reflection and poignant contemplation. So those are our two songs for Hot Off the Press today. Pretty When You Lie by Ryan Mack and Rebel at Heart by Ashton Irwin. All right, welcome back, everybody. It is time for Parenting 101, and Cheryl is here in the studio. Hi, Cheryl. Good afternoon.
Hi, Casey.
Good to see you.
Good to see. Well, my glasses are
You're
fogging
up. Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I wonder if that catches on the camera. Because you got a mask on, so...
I do, yeah. I've caught a bit of a cold, so
Aw.
I don't want to get anybody sick, so I'm masked up, and it's creating some fog on my glasses.
Thank you for being so considerate and actually fogging up your glasses on my behalf. I
Oh,
appreciate
no
that.
worries. Health is most important, of course.
Yeah, and we were talking actually before we came on the air a little bit. It seems like a lot of people are getting sick these days, right?
Yeah. There's a lot going around these days, especially kids.
Right. Yeah, I was just saying before we came on the air that my kids have been sick on and off like all year, it seems, and then just recently again, getting sick again.
But I told you, I said that's good because they're going to have a good immune system later on.
That's me knocking on wood. I really hope so, because right now it doesn't seem to be working out for their immune systems, but that's how it goes, right?
Exactly.
But that's actually not what we're talking about in Parenting 101 today,
it is
right?
not.
Oh,
No.
Okay. So what are we going to talk about today?
So summer is finally here.
Oh, yes. I've been feeling it lately.
Yes.
For sure.
And the beaches of Busan are going to be fully opening next week. So today we'll be talking about beach and ocean safety.
Nice. And I guess, obviously, I think our listeners might be familiar, but you're a surfer and you teach surfing, and you're also a parent.
Yes.
And do you teach parenting? That's what we're doing, right? So kind of, right? So I guess you're very qualified to talk about this topic. And I'm the kind of person that if I go to the beach, I bring basically a towel, a hat, because, I need some coverage up there, and sunblock. Is there anything else to it, or is that it?
Oh, no, there's so much more to it. I've been spending every summer on the beach with my daughter since she was under a year old. And as she grows, our approach to beach safety actually changes.
Oh, so you've noticed like a change in how you approach it as she gets older.
Yeah.
And is that because maybe she's doing different kinds of things at the beach at different ages?
Exactly right. Having a beach vacation with an infant is a very different experience from being at the beach with a toddler or a teenager.
You don't have to change diapers anymore, right?
No, not at all. The diaper bag is gone, thankfully.
We're waiting for that. We got one more. We're holding on. But yeah, I have been to the beach with an infant, and that was like a constant thing. Is like, don't put that in your mouth. The usual stuff with kids,
Yeah.
right? So that does change, right? So what's the first thing to take into consideration if you're going to go to the beach with your kids? What should you think about first?
So one of the most important things to consider when going to the beach with kids is the beach itself. Not all beaches are the same. And because
true.
the ocean conditions change from day to day, a beach that was calm one day can be completely different the next. So it's extremely important to know everybody in your family's swimming ability and pick a beach that fits everybody's needs.
And I was just thinking, I was going through the list of beaches in my head here, and I was thinking, yeah, some beaches would be better for younger kids for sure. But then also it depends on like who's there. Like Songjong Beach came to mind as being a very kind of shallow, a lot of the shallow water, but there's so many surfers out there.
Well,
That's a consideration as well.
Yeah, but in the summer, the beaches have leisure sports zones.
Oh, okay, so they're zoned off.
So Songjong has a swimming zone that the surfers are not supposed to enter.
Not supposed to.
Guanali also has a swimming zone.
Oh, right, for the
that
paddle boards and stuff.
boards are not going to enter.
Right.
And also Hyundai
Okay.
has a leisure sports zone as well, where surfers are supposed to stay. And this is during beach hours.
Right.
After the beach closes, it's a free-for-all. But during beach hours, you've got to stay in your zones.
And so that's important to note because the beaches haven't officially opened yet. Most of the beaches have not officially opened yet. So it is kind of still a free-for-all at many of them, I guess, until they open officially.
The ones that have partially opened, who
Right.
do have the rescue lifesavers on duty,
Right.
they are following the summer rules.
Okay.
So people who are engaging in leisure sports activities can't enter the swimming zones with
Keep
their
to your
boards.
zone.
Keep to your zone for safety.
Yes, please, for safety. Okay, so thinking about all of that, there is some, things we have to take into consideration. What kind of beach would you recommend for families with young children?
So families with young kids who are not strong swimmers, it's best to pick a beach with a sandy ocean bottom. Mm-hmm. The beaches with extreme tides or beaches that have steep drops should be avoided.
Yeah, that's why I was
And-
thinking Songjong maybe.
Well, it's best to find a beach that's shallow near the shore.
Right.
But if you do end up at a beach with steep drops or strong currents, then you might just want to keep your kids entertained on the beach with toys and sandcastles and avoid entering the ocean. And always, always choose a beach with lifeguards on duty.
I think that might go without saying, but just in case people don't know, why is it a good idea to choose a beach with lifeguards on duty?
So finding a patrol beach is important to keep your family safe. When you're swimming at a beach, you should always swim near the lifeguards. Sometimes unexpected things can happen when you're in the ocean. So it's good to have someone watching the area that you're swimming in.
Right.
When you first arrive at the beach, you should look and see where the lifeguard towers are and if they're on duty. In Korea, the beaches open around 9 and close around 6. So lifeguards should be in the towers around that time. And you also want to locate the headquarters, which has first aid equipment. So if there are no lifeguards on duty, don't go in the water.
Okay, that's good advice. I was just thinking back to an embarrassing incident in Hawaii. Because me and my cousin's actually in the Coast Guard. Mm-hmm. So in theory, he's a good swimmer. And I'm not the best swimmer. I'll admit it. I'm not the best swimmer. And we went surfing, I think on the North Shore somewhere of Hawaii. And the conditions can suddenly change.
Oh, absolutely.
And we got pulled right way out. Like it was, that had never happened to me before. Mm-hmm. I guess it was a rip current or I don't know what the terminology is. And he was so embarrassed that we had to get rescued because he's Coast Guard. Me, I was just happy to be not crashing into some rocks or some reef. But he was like, don't tell anybody about this. But now I've told everyone. So yeah, of course, that's one perfect example. You may think you're even a good swimmer, and conditions could change quickly, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're going into the water and there's no lifeguards on duty, doesn't matter if you're a strong swimmer. It doesn't matter if your kids are strong swimmers, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Even strong swimmers like you.
Yes. I mean, I'm not that great a swimmer, but
can get into trouble, and it's easy to underestimate the power of the ocean and the currents. In Western countries, we're used to seeing flags that give us information about the safest place to swim.
Ah, okay.
Where the rip currents are, and also where the marine sport areas are.
True, right.
But Korea uses buoys to create the summer swimming areas. Most beaches have no signage for rips or other dangerous areas, which is another reason why it's good to swim near the lifeguards.
Right.
I have seen some flags this year marking the water sport zones where swimming isn't allowed. And flags are always there for a reason, especially if you're traveling overseas this summer. If you see a flag at a beach and you're not sure what it means, ask the lifeguards before going in the water.
Yeah, that's another good reason to be near the lifeguard, just in case you want to know what's going on. They should be the most informed person out there, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if I saw a flag, I'd be like, I don't know, are they exploring for oil? Or I don't know, what's the reason? Because the flags are not marked with language, right? It's just a colored flag, that's it?
Yeah, and if you're overseas, usually the flags move because rip currents can pop up at any time.
Right.
So it's important to be aware of if the lifeguards are picking up a flag and moving it somewhere else.
That's cool. They know so much about what's going on out there. So yeah, be near them, right? Mm-hmm. And especially if you get into trouble, you want them near. Trust me.
Absolutely.
No matter how embarrassing it is to get pulled in by a lifeguard, it's way better than the alternative, right? Mm-hmm. So once we've located the lifeguard towers, then it's safe to go into the ocean, you think?
Well, this is where the surfer side comes in.
Okay.
It's important to take a few minutes to watch the ocean.
Never thought about that once.
Yeah, exactly.
I never considered that.
Exactly. This is especially important if you happen to be at a beach with no lifeguards.
Oops.
Watching the ocean is something that surfers do and most swimmers and beachgoers don't. Kids are always excited to get into the ocean,
right.
But it's important to stop and take a few minutes just to see what the ocean is doing before going in, especially at a beach with waves like Songjeong
right.
or Haeundae.
And Gwangali can sometimes have really strong waves depending on the weather.
Sometimes have some really strong waves.
Right.
The waves come in sets, so there will be times when the ocean looks really calm and others where the waves will roll in one after another. So if you run right into the ocean thinking it's calm,
right.
Suddenly you could find that you're facing waves that are larger than expected when the set rolls in. And as adults, we might be okay with large waves on our own, but It's very difficult to hold on to a child if the waves are big and the currents are strong.
Yeah, because just from my own experience, it's hard to control your own body when the waves are really powerful, or if there's like an undercurrent that you don't expect.
Exactly.
Like you can't focus on somebody else.
Right, and you should never turn your back to the ocean.
I've heard that. So that literally means that. Like, don't turn your back.
Literally means that. Don't turn your back to the ocean.
Because you might get pounded over the head by something you didn't see coming.
You're not going to see the waves coming, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I tell you what, Cheryl, this is a good place to take a song break because we're going to listen to Jump by Van Halen.
Oh.
And we want to reiterate that you should not jump right into the ocean without watching first.
Exactly.
So might as well not jump first. Might as well look.
Not into the ocean.
Right. Okay. So we'll take a quick song break. This is Jump by Van Halen, and we'll be back with Cheryl and Parenting 101. Welcome back to Parenting 101 with Cheryl, and we just heard Jump by Van Halen, and I was thinking, all right, it is okay to jump. but look first.
Yeah, exactly.
Check the waves first, and then
And
once
then
you're
jump
like,
in.
then you can hear David Lee Roth in your head going, "Jump! Might as well jump into the water."
But don't dive.
Yeah, I've seen people do it. I've seen people
but
do
it's
it.
dangerous. That's how spinal injuries happen.
There's I want to say Songdo Beach has like kind of like a diving area.
Oh, yeah, but that's different.
right.
That's-
So if
that's
they have one
really
for you-
deep, yeah, but don't dive in at the shoreline.
Right.
That's dangerous.
That's it. If there's one that's already been designated as a diving area, you can probably feel safe about that. But don't make
exactly.
up your own spot to dive.
No.
That's a bad idea. So yeah, we're talking about safety at the beach, and there's a lot of things to kind of consider. I've always heard the expression "don't turn your back to the ocean." Have I paid attention to it or listened to it? Probably not. I will starting today. But okay, so another thing I see when I go to the beach in the summer, I see that there's a lot of these tubes, and I do notice that a lot of kids actually are wearing life jackets. So is that okay? Like, should kids be wearing life jackets, or as a tube as a substitute, or you always need a life jacket? How does that work?
Well, life jackets for kids who aren't strong swimmers are a good idea.
Okay.
But if they're not used properly, they can be more harmful than helpful.
Oh, okay.
So life jackets need to fit properly. So buying a life jacket 2 sizes too big for a kid to grow into is not a good idea.
Right. That seems like a bad idea because they would the life jacket wouldn't be supporting them properly, right?
Exactly. And if the life jacket comes up over the ears, it could easily slip off over the child's head.
Right.
So a life jacket should actually not come up any further than the bottom of the earlobes.
That makes
or
sense.
the line of the chin.
Right, where that kind of support over the shoulders is, right? Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. And also, children need to learn how to float properly in life jackets.
True.
They need to learn how to roll onto their backs and float.
Right.
I've seen people who can't swim roll forward and almost drown because they panic and they're face down in the water and can't roll over.
Right, because like your weight distribution might not be easy for you to shift if you're not familiar with, how to move in the water. And if you're facing forward and then you just kind of don't know what to do, that's when the panic starts and your brain just doesn't help you at that point, right?
Exactly. So they've got to learn how to roll when they're in the life jackets.
Right.
And there's also this false sense of security when children are in tubes and other flotation devices.
Right.
Tubes are not life-saving flotation devices.
Right, that's what I was asking.
Especially if the children are not strong swimmers.
Right, because you can't replace a life jacket with a tube. The function is not even the same. A tube is just for fun,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And because they're inflatable, it's really easy for kids to be pulled out to sea by waves and wind.
Ah, right.
And it's also easy for them to fall out.
Sure.
So if they can't swim, they should never be in a tube unattended or without a life jacket at the very least.
Right.
Tubes can also be flipped in the waves.
Seen that many times.
So tubes that aren't a donut and have a bell or leg holes should still be used really carefully.
So like the tubes, like the straight ones, like a bar, like those kinds of things I've
Yeah,
seen.
like the baby tubes.
Ah, okay.
They've got the leg holes so that your young one can sit in them.
Right. Okay.
And then sometimes they've got a seatbelt.
I've never noticed that. Oh.
So those, you've really got to be careful and watch your child if they're in those.
Yeah, because especially if they flip, they're stuck in that way, right? And if it flips over, they're stuck upside down.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. So there's a lot to consider there. And I know that some of the beaches in Korea have strong currents and strong rips, but what's the advice for parents visiting these kinds of beaches with their children? So if you go to one with these kind of strong currents, what should you do?
So most importantly, parents should acquaint themselves with what a rip current is.
Okay, so yeah, so like I've heard the term undercurrent, undertow, rip current. There's a lot of terminology.
Yeah.
What is a rip current?
So a rip is a strong, narrow current where water flows away from the beach.
Okay.
Most people enter a rip because it looks like the calmest place to swim.
Ah,
Because Korean beaches don't have a lot of signage and flags, you need to know what to look for.
okay.
So if you're at a beach that's popular for surfing, you can actually watch the surfers to see where they're going into the ocean because surfers typically use a rip to paddle out since it pulls them
Ah, right.
away
Save
from
some
the
energy.
shore. Yeah, it's like an elevator. They just get in and it
Right.
carries them right out.
Very convenient. Thank you, ocean, but also very dangerous.
Yeah.
So need to be aware of that.
So you don't want to swim in that area.
Okay.
And it's also important for kids to know about rips and how to escape them.
Right.
In Australia, in the Nippers program, the coaches take kids out and they just drop them into the rips so they can learn to relax and let the rips carry them all the way out.
I have to ask you, what is a nipper?
What is
that?
A nipper is like a junior swim program.
Oh, okay. So for the little ones.
For the little ones,
Nippers.
yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. A
They
cute
drop
term.
all these little kids into the rip, and the rip just carries them 500 meters away from the beach, and
wow.
they just float out.
And they enjoy the experience, I'm guessing.
Oh, they love it.
Yeah, right.
And then once the rip releases them, they can safely swim back to shore.
Why do they do that?
Well, most swimmers who get caught in a rip get into trouble because they panic. Mm-hmm. And currently in Korea, we don't have a Nippers program, so it's up to parents to educate themselves about ocean safety.
True. And also, people might not be familiar with nippers. I think of them as cutting tools. That's what nippers in American English.
I think in Canada, you've got like a junior swim program like frogs and goldfish and stuff like that.
All these
maybe?
cute terms, right? Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's cool. I mean, and I guess the idea is they want to attract kids to the program, right?
Yeah.
So they want to like make it sound like something fun and something for kids instead of we're going to drop you into a rip current and see how you do, right?
Exactly.
But I mean, I guess that's the idea. You want to teach them not to panic, get them used to that sensation. Mm-hmm. But after that, how can they actually get out of a rip?
So first thing is don't panic and don't fight it.
Right.
The currents are so strong.
Yes, I can vouch for that.
Yes, Hawaii. Right?
Hawaii is, powerful.
Yeah. So you'll just get tired without getting anywhere. To escape, you just need to swim parallel to the shore and then start swimming back to the beach.
Once you feel like there's no...
Once you feel like there's no pull.
Right, okay.
Once you let go. If you're tired or having trouble escaping the rip, then just float on your back and wave or yell for help.
It works. They'll come get you. I can promise you.
Yeah, or a surfer will come and pick you up.
Yes. Yeah, that might have been what happened. I can't remember, but somebody definitely picked me up. So, all right, what's the most important information for parents with kids of any age if we're going to visit the beach this summer?
Well, it seems obvious, but it's easy to get distracted when you're at the beach.
Right.
So watching your kids is the most important advice for families this summer.
Right. You're not taking them at the beach so you can't watch them.
Exactly.
Right. That's not the purpose. Okay.
Exactly. Even older children need to be supervised. An adult should always be actively watching kids on the beach and in the ocean. And that means not looking at your cell phone, not talking to other parents,
Right.
but continuously watching the kids. Kids who are in tubes or life jackets are not always safe and have to be watched. My daughter is a really strong swimmer.
I bet mom's the teacher.
She's an amazing surfer, but even I know things can change in an instant, and she is never in the ocean without supervision or a surf buddy.
And I guess like she's used to that, right? She knows like that's how it's going to be, so it doesn't seem like a bummer for her to, always be supervised, right?
Yeah, she knows the ocean
Right.
really well. She's in rhythm with the ocean when she's in there.
I want to
But
be in rhythm with the ocean. That sounds so nice.
I
Be in
know
rhythm with
things
the
can
ocean.
happen. So she's never alone when she's in the water.
Gotcha. And she knows that because you make it very clear, like when we go, like you stay within my sight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you kind of explain that every time you go, like don't wander off too far away from me?
Yeah, or she's with her surf coach, or she's with her dad or an uncle or aunt. She's with somebody all
Right.
the time.
That's probably another good idea too. Maybe if you feel like it might be too much for you to go to the beach and watch your kids at the same time, maybe go with somebody who can help you watch.
Yeah,
Right.
aunts and uncles are the best.
Right.
They've got so much energy.
Yeah, and yes, use that. If you have that privilege, if you have somebody who doesn't get to take care of your child all the time, yeah. Hey, how about going to the beach together and don't tell them why, and then boom, just drop the kids off on them. Yes, and they're because they do see them a little bit more rarely.
Mm-hmm.
They're willing to do more things than we might be able to. Right?
Exactly.
We run out of energy a bit quicker, I think.
Build the biggest sandcastles.
Exactly. All right, one last thing I want to ask. All right, so what is a must for families that are planning a trip to the beach? What do you need to keep in mind when you're packing for a beach day?
Sunscreen.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can vouch for that.
Yeah, if you're going to be at the beach, sunscreen is one of the most important things to pack. Sunburn is the most common injury for kids because it doesn't take long to get burned.
Right.
You should also keep a bottle of aloe in your fridge for the summer, just in case someone comes home for a sunburn. Even if the kids have a long sleeve rashie on and swim pants on,
Right.
they should still put sun cream on their hands and feet.
Yeah, I'm guilty of not doing that. Ugh. Yep.
Oh, no, so important.
Right.
Experts recommend being most careful between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. when the sun is the strongest. And also reapply sun cream after swimming in the ocean. Even if sun cream is waterproof, most of them are not effective after the kids have been in the water.
Gotcha.
And it works best if applied 20 to 30 minutes before going in. Also, if you are traveling during summer vacation to another country, you got to be aware that the sun is not the same.
Ah, true.
And if you're going somewhere else, the sun might be a lot stronger.
And actually, a lot of smartphone weather apps will notify or will tell you how strong the UV rays are and what are the peak hours.
Yeah.
So it's worth looking at.
Exactly. And some sun creams might not work for that country. My daughter got the worst sunburn of her life in Australia because
there
the
you go.
sun cream wasn't strong enough.
So it's something to be aware of. Not all sun creams are created equally.
No, not at all.
So yeah, do a little bit of research, right?
Exactly.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Well, Cheryl, we're going to have to stop it there for today. We got a lot of information to consider. Thank you so much for coming in with this on Parenting 101 every Thursday, and you'll be back next Thursday,
I
right?
will. Hopefully maskless by then.
I hope you're feeling better,
I
yeah.
hope so too.
Stay healthy.
Yes.
All right, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
All right, that was Cheryl for Parenting 101, and we're going to take a quick song break. We're going to listen to Maria by Blondie, and we'll be back after that.
부산 영어방송
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
Electric kickboards and electric bicycles are common on the streets these days. With the increased use of personal mobility devices, the number of accidents and deaths have reportedly increased significantly.
Personal Mobility Patrol Mode.
I don't need to wear a safety helmet because I'm only riding a short distance.
Wear a safety helmet. When you drive your personal mobility devices, you have to wear a safety helmet.
Hey, I rented an electric kickboard. Let's ride it together.
Okay, you drive in the front, I'll get in the back.
Follow the number of passengers. Only one person can ride an electric kickboard and electric wheel parallel car.
Follow the rules of personal mobility devices and drive safely. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM 부산영어방송.
The time is now 3 o'clock.
Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot with Casey McKeever. This is the second hour of the show, and we just kicked it off with Let's Dance to Joy Division by the Wombats, and that was something I quite enjoyed. If you are familiar with Joy Division, they're perhaps not the happiest band, and so I think that song was a little loaded with irony. The band members include Dan Haggis and Tord Overland Knudsen, and they said that song is like people dancing and having fun to songs they really find quite depressing. I have done the same thing many a time. I've been to a goth club. Come on. It's fun to dance to depressing songs. They say it's about people dancing to the song Love Will Tear Us Apart, which is a great song by Joy Division. It's also about having a hard week and then letting loose. The ridiculousness of life can get you down, but it's kind of like the music can get you out of it. So that's the idea behind the song. Dan Haggis also explained to how the band came up with the name The Wombats. He says he and Matthew Murphy used to have a few fictional characters that they would write about. For example, there was Fred the Ferret, Jeremiah the Brave Tortoise, Guinevere the Magical Otter, and Wombo the Wombat. And it turns out the Wombats went on a poster for their first gig, and I guess they liked that name because it stuck. So I hope you enjoyed that. It does remind me of a band that is local to here called Goths on the Beach. A very similar sense of humor, I think. So well worth checking out as well. Welcome to the program, everybody. You're listening to us here on BEFM 90.5 here in Busan and 103.3 FM in Gijang, Jeongwan, and Noksan areas. And in Seoul, we're on TBS EFM 101.3 FM. And in Gwangju, we're on GFN 98.7 FM. Thanks for joining us wherever you're at. And I got so many messages I wanted to get to. Sorry, had a very busy first hour. We still got a lot coming up in the second hour for you. First up, we're going to get to our daily list. Today's daily list is something I usually pick this for very selfish reasons. Things that I need to sort through in my own life. So today's daily list, how to travel on a budget. 10 tips to save cash while you're traveling. This is advice I need to take myself. Because I try to not, completely break the bank while I'm out so that when I get back home, I've got nothing left. But it's a little hard, right? And then we've got Inside Korea coming up today as well. One of the stories we're going to talk about is what particular tourists from different countries spend while they're in Korea, especially on credit cards. It's interesting. They can break it down what different groups of tourists spend, what types of things they like to buy. I thought that was a very interesting insight into different cultures and what they do while they're here in Korea. So we'll check that out. And then also we've got our perfect playlist coming up in the second hour. We're going to have 2 more songs with our theme of sunrise. Don't stay out too late that you see the sunrise. Not too much during the summer, right? Instead, kind of enjoy a sunrise the natural way. Wake up for the sunrise occasionally. It's good for you. And my question of the day today, what do you spend most of your money on when you travel? 여행할 때 어디에 많은 돈을 쓰시나요? So I've got some answers I would like to share. From Insunim says, like myself, I spend a lot of money on food. Insunim, I am with you. I would have to break out the receipts perhaps to be sure. But I think that's perhaps what I spend most of my money on as well. And yes, we are certainly live. I got a question in the chat there from Enid Nim saying, yes, this is live. Please send us your messages. What do you spend money on while you travel? Also, I got a message from, let's see, Choi Hisuk-nim chiming in with, oh yes, good afternoon to you. Yes, it is a little bit hazy today. Hisuk-nim commenting on the topic we were talking about before in the first hour with Cheryl. We were talking about the beach. A lot of people travel to Busan specifically for that reason, right? Come to check out the beach. My friends, I recommended them to go to Songjeong Beach just yesterday. So they got to check that out. And it's time to be aware of beach safety, right? Summer's here. Everybody loves to hang out at the beach. And the beach can be a very safe place to enjoy. But there's some things you have to be aware of. And that's what Cheryl was talking about today. Hisuk-nim saying, I'm afraid of the sea because I don't know what is under the water. Sometimes it's better not to know from my experience. I did go swimming in Cebu in the Philippines way back in 2012, I'm going to guess. And there's an area of the Philippines, or in Cebu, which Cebu's a big island, right? There's an area called Oslob, and a lot of people go there and swim with whale sharks. I did that myself, and sometimes you don't want to see what is in the water. Those things are huge, and if you saw one swim up right next to you, you might be more than a little surprised. But a very interesting experience for sure. I definitely do not regret doing that. Do I have nightmares about whale sharks from on occasion? Perhaps. Yes, they were huge creatures swimming right next to me. So yes, I want to say hi to Lee Kelly. All right. So we've got some requests. Ooh, interesting. I hear this, I would say every now and then, at least once a year, I hear something with Casey and the Sunshine Band. I heard that all through middle school and high school as well. So perhaps, a song request. So all right, we'll check in on that. And thank you for checking in with us today. I've got a couple more messages I want to get to. From 1191 Nim. I spend a lot on eating. Yeah. I think I'm not alone in this case. 119 Nim says, I like delicious food. Not only traveling, but I think food takes up the most of my living expenses. Yeah, I guess so, right? Even when you're not out and about traveling or going to different locations, food is a lot of what we spend our money on, right? So cool. Yeah, I think we're on the same page here. When we travel, we like to eat, right? Enjoy what's there. So definitely, yeah, send me your messages. What do you spend most of your money on when you travel? You can reach us, of course, here at 샵9050 or pound 9050 for 100 won. You can also search BEFM or 부산영어방송 if you have the KakaoTalk app. Send us a message for free. And if you go to the smartphone app in your app store on your phone, you can just search BEFM 부산영어방송. Our smartphone app will come up there. You can download that. Listen to the show wherever you go. Log in there and send us some messages. Let us know what you like to spend your money on when you travel. Or maybe you don't even like spending your money when you travel. It just happens to be. This is where my money goes. Hisuk-nim saying, I love to buy souvenirs. That's another thing I know a lot of my friends spend money on. They were buying some souvenirs yesterday, and I was like, I never know what to buy for other people when I travel, so I avoid it. I largely avoid buying people souvenirs as gifts, and I don't typically buy them for myself either. I don't know why. I think I'm very lazy, perhaps. So yeah, Hisuk-nim, that's cool. I appreciate the fact that people like to buy souvenirs. That's something I don't do myself for whatever reason. So send us your messages. What do you like to spend your money on when you travel? And, oh, cool. We got a song request for Lee Kelly Nim. All right, here it goes. This is the one time of the year I'm going to do this. This is Casey and the Sunshine Band with Please Don't Go. All right, welcome back. This is the time for the daily list. You just heard, of course, a requested song that was Please Don't Go by Casey and the Sunshine Band. So, yeah, I get that. I wouldn't say a request a lot. I get that comment a lot in my personal life. Hey, are you in the Sunshine Band? I've heard that quite a bit. So thank you for the request there. But now it's time for our daily list. And I was kind of just looking at what people are talking about here. Yes, there's people like to travel, right? And people like to travel in their own particular ways. And some people love to spend a lot of money and feel no shame about that. They're like, I'm going to live my life. When am I going to get the chance to do this again? I'm going to spend a lot of money and that's okay. I am not one of those people. I am jealous of those people. I try to have a budget that I can work with when I travel. I want to enjoy myself, of course, but I don't want to be broke when I get back home and then have to pick up another job. We don't need that. So I did find a list of some ways that you can save cash while you're traveling. It's traveling on a budget is the idea. And, so according to this, if you have a predetermined budget and limited funds, they say you can actually improve your vacation in many ways. How so? Well, some people prefer this type of travel because it might spur some creativity. You might have to plan in advance a little bit. You might have to think outside the box a little bit. So I'm going to give you some ideas, and you can let me know if you think these are good ideas or not. One idea is to plan ahead. I struggle with this. But if you book flights and hotels early, you can often get cheaper prices. You can actually also perhaps look into booking reservations at restaurants even. That might save you some time and a way to get around town without having to, search for a place to eat and you have no idea where you're at. And you're like, taxi, take me to some place like a restaurant like this. If you even look into eateries in advance, that could save you time and therefore money as well. So plan ahead. I will try, but I'm not very good at that. Another idea is to actually create a budget, a specific budget before your trip. If you have a limit in mind before you decide to travel, this will probably prevent you from doing spontaneous things, which might involve going out to drink too much and regretting it the next day because you're hungover and you spent way too much at the local bar. So, okay, that's one way it can help you, but a budget is completely useless if you choose to ignore it. So that's important to keep in mind. If you decide to go through the effort of creating a budget, actually follow through and keep track of what you spend. I kind of have done that before, just kind of keeping track of receipts and having a general idea of how much I spend. But the more you do that and the more you stick to it, probably the more you'll be thankful for it at the end of the trip. So that's an idea. Create a specific budget for your particular trip that you're taking. I think this is no surprise. Another way to save money is travel during the off-peak seasons. So trying to avoid the tourist-heavy months or specific weeks that everybody is going to go to that location. Typically, your hotels and flights will be cheaper. My favorite part of that is the fact that there are fewer people, less crowded areas, shorter waits if you're going to a particular tourist site or attractions, or even if you're going to like a theme park. That's kind of cool. Go in the off season. Don't wait in line for a ride, right? Not if you don't have to. So that's another thing you could do. Travel during off-peak seasons. Another idea, there's a lot of websites that have discounts for groups. If you travel in larger groups, you can often go to specific group sounding sites and they can find you discounts on everything from like local restaurants to vacation packages, resort packages. So that's an idea as well. Another one, this one I try to do, avoid hotels when possible. Sometimes it's inevitable. If you want to be in a city and you want to be in a specific part of the city, for example, I just wanted to stay in Midtown Manhattan when I was in like university with my friends. Okay, hotel was cool. We're like, it puts us right where we want to be and you're going to pay for it. It's going to be expensive. But if you're traveling in a large group and you're going to stay for a while, that gets quickly expensive. And unless you're perhaps going to somewhere like Barcelona or somewhere like that, you might want to look into renting an apartment rather than staying at a hotel. And that could be a lot cheaper. It might actually require a deposit, but that's money that you get back. So that's good for you. If the stay is short, if you maybe have a small group that you're traveling with, consider a hostel. I had a great time at a hostel in Barcelona. Yes, I was at a hostel there, but also in Madrid. When I was traveling in Spain, I stayed at a hostel. It was way, way cheaper than any hotel that was in the area. I still got to be in this downtown area, very close to a lot of museums, a beautiful park that was nearby, and I got to meet a lot of interesting, let's say, fellow travelers. So hostels, be prepared. You're going to be in close quarters with people you might not otherwise meet. So that can work out for the best, and sometimes you might meet people you're like, okay, once in my life is good. But a hostel is definitely an interesting experience if you've never tried it. And I think there's a lot of hostels in the Busan area here too. It seems to be kind of increasing in popularity. So if you're coming to Busan, consider that. A hostel's an option. And if you're looking for hostel recommendations, again, go to the internet. There's plenty of ways to search those. And something that people do as an activity is called couch surfing. And that's where you basically stay at somebody's house. I had some friends who were involved with that. They always had some interesting people at their place. And I've heard some interesting stories. And they ended up making friends that they might return the favor when they go to the country that they're from. So that's an interesting thing you can do. I've never tried it. I've considered it. I haven't taken that step yet, but I've heard some people really enjoy that. Another idea, of course, discounts before you travel. Search online. There might be student discounts in the area you're going to. There could be senior discounts. There could be AAA discounts as an American service. There's all kinds of things you can find for specific groups that might have sometimes really good discounts if you're going to tourist attractions or museums or anything like that. Check into it before you go. You'll never know how, sometimes it's really surprising what kind of discounts you can find. Another idea, I do prefer to solo travel sometimes. Anybody out there with me? Sometimes you just need alone time and to really enjoy where you're at and not worry about what other people want to do. Sometimes traveling by yourself is the way to go. That can get quite expensive, however. Sometimes by traveling with one friend, just one friend can kind of break the cost in half. And whether that's food or whether that's especially accommodations or renting a car, if that's something you're interested in doing, traveling with even just one friend can save you money in that case. Traveling with multiple friends, a little bit of too much of a headache with me. I don't know. One friend, two friends max, I'm good. We can share the money for a rental car, split the gas cost. Sure, I'm okay with that. Another idea, and this is something I kind of don't do easily, but some people are really good at this. Are you familiar with haggling? This is where you basically go to a local market, local shop, and you're like, that price? I don't think so. I want to give you less than that price. I have a hard time doing it with that, especially, I don't know. It depends on where in the world I go. And sometimes, depending on what culture you're interacting with, it might be expected that you're going to haggle for different prices. Sometimes not so much. So I think kind of look into where you're going. Do a little research first. See if haggling is acceptable or expected. In some cases, you might just kind of make people upset. So something to consider, something I'm not good at. Haggling is definitely something you have to have a certain amount of courage for, in my opinion. Another idea is to stay off the beaten path. So avoid tourist-heavy locations, period. Not just off-peak, off-season, but maybe go somewhere that a lot of people don't go. And that's a big way to save money. Some of the coolest places I've ever been to is because I've decided to do that. I'm going here for no particular reason except that other people don't go there. And there are parts of Ukraine and Poland that I don't know that other tourists have ever been to. And it was a very memorable experience for me. And yeah, I can't even say exactly where I was in many cases. I just kind of followed where I wanted to go. And it was not expensive in any way, shape, or form. Another idea, we've been talking in the chat a little bit here about food. It seems like a lot of people spend money on food when they travel. This is an idea I've never tried, but bring your own food. I actually don't recall even thinking about this until the first time I came to Korea and I saw people with these big cardboard boxes full of ramyun. And I was like, oh, you can do that? And it's apparently a thing that people do. Bring your own food whenever possible. perhaps stock up on cheaper food if you're in a location that's, like maybe a supermarket and don't always eat at a restaurant, right? Take advantage of having cheaper food, bring it with you where you go. And literally you can, in many cases, apparently bring food with you from your own country when you travel. I think you'll have to make sure that it's okay to bring in checked baggage first. That's a good idea. But yeah, bring your own food. And that way you save a little bit of money while you're traveling. So these are 10 different ideas, ways to save money while you travel. Worth checking into, definitely worth thinking about. And that's going to do it for today's daily list. Let's take a quick song break. We're going to listen to The Science of Selling Yourself Short by Less Than Jake, and then we'll be back with Inside Korea. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot. You just heard The Science of Selling Yourself Short by Less Than Jake. And now it's time for Inside Korea. We do this every Wednesday and Thursday, and we talk about important news and events and things that are happening here in Korea. And today, I think you can guess, I was talking a lot about travel and what people like to spend money on. And one of the reasons I was thinking about that was I saw a headline about what U.S. tourists spend their money on, and specifically on credit cards. So when I looked into the article, I was like, okay, I want to see what my fellow Americans are up to with their money when they're here. So that was what piqued my curiosity. But also, there's a list of what people from all sorts of countries spend their money on. I thought that was interesting to kind of look at. It's just kind of a fascinating look at how people from different cultures generally spend their money. And of course, that's in a general term, right? People from all over the place are always very different. Within a country, everyone's different as well. But these are kind of trends that you can see happening when people come to Korea and what they spend their money on. And according to this article, U.S. tourists were the biggest spenders among foreigners visiting Korea over the past year, period. So over the past year, Americans spend the most amount of money. Does that surprise me? A little, actually. Just kind of knowing my American friends. A lot of us tend to be a little bit on the budget side of things, so I was kind of surprised by that. But of course, the United States is a very big country full of many different people, so there's some big spenders apparently there. Ranked number 2 and 3, actually, over the past year, Japan was the second ranked for the biggest spenders among foreigners visiting Korea over the past year. And China was ranked 3rd among foreigners visiting Korea over the past year for how much money they spend. And of course, this is according to credit card companies. So this specifically credit cards, not cash. Does that make a difference? When I travel, I think I tend to use more cash than I would otherwise. And I'm not sure why that is. But in a lot of cases, I will try to avoid credit cards. Perhaps maybe because of international credit card fees. So, maybe if cash were included, the results might be different. And this information is provided by a U.S. credit card network operator, very, very famous one you might have heard of before. But they are worldwide, so they can probably break down what is different. And they said from last April to this March, the top spenders among foreign tourists in Korea in order were the United States, Japan, China, followed by Taiwan, Singapore, Thailand, and Hong Kong. So they didn't release exact spending figures, but they did break it down to actually what people were spending by industry. They said retail establishments, which include restaurants and duty-free stores, were for around 15% of the total spending. So there you go. Restaurants, they make an appearance, right? Hospitals and department stores actually got around 10 to 15% each. And I was thinking about that. Medical tourism is a big thing in Korea, so hospitals would take obviously a big part of that. And department stores, people love to shop. Any shoppers out there? Not me. That is not what I like to do while I'm on holiday or on vacation. Shopping is not my favorite thing to do, but I have definitely traveled with friends and family who love to do it. And I usually have to tag along and just kind of fold my arms, wait outside, or just perhaps mosey around somewhere. Yeah, shopping is not my favorite thing to do when I travel. But they also said accommodations did make the list as well. So places where people stay, apparel stores for clothing, and discount stores also accounted for about 5 to 10% each of what people spent on average. Who's spending the most money on food? American tourists. I'm not surprised by that. That doesn't surprise me. U.S. tourists, they said, spent the most money in the food-related sector. Restaurants accounted for 21%, and food product stores were responsible for 5% of their total spending. So whether it's at a restaurant or whether it's going to the supermarket or local markets, Americans like to spend a lot of money on food. I am not shocked by that. They did say also that transportation costs, including taxis, made up 4% of what Americans spend, and that is a higher proportion compared to other nations. The answer for that? Because taxis here are much cheaper than taxis in the United States. So they're probably like, wow, this is amazingly cheap. I'm going to take a taxi everywhere that I go. So yeah, I'm not surprised by that either. For Japanese tourists, they say 17% of their total spending was on medical services. So the top spending for Japanese tourists in Korea, medical services, they spent comparatively less money at restaurants and department stores, about 11% on restaurants, 8% on department stores. So medical tourism is definitely a big thing here. And Japan being very close to Korea, that kind of makes sense to me. It's very easy to just kind of fly over for whatever medical purpose. So there you go. For Chinese tourists, they said retail stores took up 21% of what Chinese tourists spend. Department stores were at 15% and clothing stores at 11%. So shopping seems to be big with Chinese tourists here. Really interesting to me, right? What the differences are here. They said 55% of the total credit card transactions by tourists from the 7 countries that I mentioned before were made in Seoul. So the Seoul area getting a lot of these tourists to spend their credit card money. Incheon came in second. accounting for 10% of the total. Hey, and Busan, here we go. We made it. Number 3, 9%. Jeju Island got 7%, and Pyeongchang got 2%. So an interesting list there. Where are people heading to? Jeju turned out to be a particularly popular destination for Chinese tourists in particular. Their preference for the island was second only to Seoul. They said spending there in Jeju came to about 19% of their total transactions. Interesting. But who's coming to Busan? You want to know? Taiwanese tourists. Taiwanese tourists preferred Busan. They said 16% of their total transactions were made and likely due to a Busan-Taipei route. So there you go. So come on, everybody from Taiwan, come on over here. We'll have you. We love you. Come join us. And I would like to join you in Taiwan again soon. I've had the chance to go to Taiwan. Oh, it's been a while now. Wonderful place to go. I highly recommend going to check out Taiwan. So that's our first story for today in Inside Korea. Next one is kind of related to where people go. This is that Korea is projected to see the 4th biggest net outflow of millionaires. So that headline kind of caught my attention. What does that mean? So according to a private wealth migration report in 2024, individuals with assets totaling $1 million or more from Korea are expected to leave the country. Why? Interesting. This is a projected net loss. There's a new record for Korea. Popular destinations for millionaires who would be leaving Korea include the United States, Australia, and Canada, according to this report. China took the top spot with a record of 15,200 net exits projected this year. So again, this is projected, but so the actual results in the year could vary. And they also said the United Kingdom came in second place with a projected net outflow of 9,500 millionaires. I didn't know there are so many millionaires. Really? Cool. Good for you. I am not one of them. They also said the third most popular spot was India with 4,300 millionaires looking to go there. So this is what they're referring to here is wealth migration. That basically means people with a lot of money moving to different places around the world. Perhaps it's easier for them. Perhaps it's for business purposes. Perhaps it's company moving within a company. There could be many reasons for that, but it is accelerating across the world. They said that it's a record 128,000 millionaires globally are expected to relocate this year. So this is not just a phenomenon that's happening in Korea. This is a worldwide phenomenon. People, for whatever reason, they have more than $1 million and they're like, okay, I'm relocating to here. Last year, the previous record was 120,000 people, millionaires, moving to other countries. Some of the reasons, looking for more favorable tax systems, social security systems, or financial benefits, or even investment opportunities. The most popular destination for high net worth individuals is the United Arab Emirates, with some 6,700 new arrivals expected this year. So this is considering worldwide, not from Korea, but millionaires on the move worldwide largely are going to the UAE. The second choice, interesting to me, was the United States. So the United States ranked second with a net inflow of 3,800 people, followed by Singapore at 3,500 and Canada at 3,200. Australia came in fifth place with 2,500. So really interesting where people are moving to, right? So that's going to do it for Inside Korea today. Really interesting news, things that are happening here. So let's take a quick song break. We're going to listen to Vacation by the Go-Go's. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot. You just heard Vacation by the Go-Go's. And if that doesn't make you want to go on vacation, I don't know. What else would? That's right now. I'm like picturing their video. I think they're on water skis or something, right? Yes, I enjoyed that song a lot. So I wanted to just quick mention, thanks, Enid, for your comment. And thanks for listening. First-time listener. Enid mentioned, we were talking about what people like to spend their money on. Enid mentioned spending money on the travel for the comfort of my kids. Their comfort is my comfort. I completely understand. When you throw kids into the mix of travel, you want to keep the kids happy. So a lot of money could definitely go to the kids for sure. And I wanted to mention, let's see, Kim Miranim also sending a message. When my family, open that window so I can read it. There we go. When my family travels, air and transportation costs are the biggest. I go to Europe during summer vacation and Southeast Asia during winter vacation. We don't have any luxury bags in my family. I gotcha. I think it's about the same for us too. It's where we're going takes a lot of money. Europe during the summer and Southeast Asia during the winter. That sounds like a very good plan. I think you like to enjoy the good weather, Kim Miranim, right? So yeah, follow where the weather is good. I'm totally down with that plan for sure. And Lee Kelly Nim mentioning about the millionaires. So many millionaires, not a single man. Yes, there are more millionaires than I expected in that news article. I was like, I don't know one of them. So there are more than I expected in the world. I guess that's how it goes, right? And also Leon Nim sending us a message as well, who says, let's see what we got here. Leon Nim says when he spends most of his money on accommodations. Leon and his girlfriend are in the middle of their 20s. They're tired, having a hard time because of work. So when they decide to go somewhere far from the city, they book a big, expensive accommodation. So they're splurging on maybe like resorts. The stuff where you're just going to feel comfortable and don't feel bad once that money's already spent. You've made that decision, right? Enjoy it. Yeah, don't feel guilty about that. Spend money on being comfortable. That's okay, right? I guess that's part of the budgeting idea. Decide what you want to spend your money on so that you will enjoy your vacation to the max, right? Well, now it is time. Thank you for your messages. Now it is time for our perfect playlist. All right, it's time for the perfect playlist. This is something we do every Monday through Friday. We try to pick the best songs for every situation. This week's situation, sunrise. Yes, the solstice, the summer solstice has passed us. So the sunrise will actually be getting like a little bit later, slightly later every day, right? Eventually. So I hope you get the chance to enjoy many sunrises this summer. Today, our first song in the theme of songs about sunrise is Sun It Rises by Fleet Foxes. This is a folk rock song. It brings in lush harmonies, pastoral imagery, and the song has intricate vocal arrangements, acoustic instrumentation, and Robin Pecknold's ethereal voice. It all evokes a sense of tranquility and reverence for nature. Sun It Rises unfolds like a serene landscape painting. It invites us to listen, to immerse ourselves in the beauty, and contemplate the mysteries of existence. Cool. And I like the Fleet Foxes just in general, so I hope you enjoy that song. Our second song is Morning Glory by Oasis. I think a very well-known song or well-known band in Korea. Some people say this is a Britpop masterpiece. It crackles with electrifying energy and swagger. That sounds like Oasis style to me. Liam Gallagher's defiant vocals and the band's dynamic guitar-driven sound definitely capture a sense of youth, rebellion, ambition, and the song has an anthemic chorus, as they typically do, and it has a driving rhythm that propels listeners into a whirlwind of optimism and self-assurance. This sounds exactly like the Gallagher brothers projecting themselves. This is what they're doing. And Morning Glory is definitely one of the quintessential anthems of 1990s rock. So enjoy our two songs on the perfect playlist for today. Sun It Rises by Fleet Foxes, followed by Morning Glory by Oasis. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot. You just heard Morning Glory by Oasis, and before that was Sun It Rises by Fleet Foxes. That was our perfect playlist for today. And of course, we'll have another one for you tomorrow. And that's going to have to do it for today. In fact, time is already up. So thank you for everybody who sent messages for our topic today. How do you spend money when you travel? And Jack Kim also thanks for a recommendation, genius recommendation. Get one of those transport cards where you can get cheaper subway or bus rides. So there's plenty of advice going on there in the chat there. And thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you so much for joining us on the 2 p.m. Reboot for today. I've been your host, Casey McKeever. We're going to be back, of course, tomorrow at 2:05 p.m. And today we're going to end with a rocker. This is going to be Born to be Wild by Steppenwolf. And of course, stay tuned for Your Busan.